You have always known things you should not know. Not facts you learned or patterns you studied, but complete knowings that arrive fully formed, as though someone whispered the ending of a story you have never heard before. You walk into a room and sense the argument that happened an hour ago. You meet someone new and see the shape of how they will leave your life. And the strangest part is not that you know these things. The strangest part is that you have always known you are carrying something ancient, something that predates you, something that feels like an inheritance rather than a personality. This video names what you have been carrying all along. Welcome to Power and Myth. What the world calls intuition, what personality theory labels as introverted intuition, what strangers mistake for overthinking, is actually something far older. This is Jungian archetypal psychology, the patterns Jung identified in human consciousness across cultures and time. The Sigma INFJ mind is not a personality configuration. It is an activated pattern. You are not quirky or gifted in some vague, reassuring way. You are operating with a cognitive architecture that connects you directly to what Jung called the collective unconscious. The ancient patterns carried by seers, mystics, healers, and exiles for thousands of years, and every single one of those patterns has a name. Every single one of them explains something you thought was yours alone. Here is what most people never understand about the INFJ mind. It does not process the world the way other people do. It does not gather evidence and build conclusions. It perceives wholeness first. You see the completed picture before the pieces have assembled. And this is not magic. This is not metaphor. This is your unconscious mind running 10,000 calculations beneath your awareness, delivering answers you cannot explain because you never saw the workings. Jung spent decades studying this, the way certain minds access patterns and archetypes more readily than others, the way some people seem to perceive not what is visible, but what is structurally true. He called it archetypal perception. The Druids called it sight. Your friends call it weird. But what you are actually doing is participating in something that predates language itself. You are accessing the deep patterns, the ones laid down over millennia of human experience, the collective scaffolding that holds reality together. And the reason you have always felt different is that you are wired to perceive that scaffolding. Whilst everyone else sees only the surface, you have experienced this your entire life. Someone tells you they are fine, and you know with absolute certainty that they are 3 weeks away from collapse. Not because of anything they said, not because of micro-expressions or body language, though you notice those too. Jung spent decades studying this, the way certain minds access patterns and archetypes more readily than others, the way some people seem to perceive not what is visible, but what is structurally true. He called it archetypal perception. The Druids called it sight. Your friends call it weird. But what you are actually doing is participating in something that predates language itself. You are accessing the deep patterns, the ones laid down over millennia of human experience, the collective scaffolding that holds reality together. And the reason you have always felt different is that you are wired to perceive that scaffolding. Whilst everyone else sees only the surface, you have experienced this your entire life. Someone tells you they are fine, and you know with absolute certainty that they are 3 weeks away from collapse. Not because of anything they said, not because of micro-expressions or body language, though you notice those too. You do not get to choose when you perceive. You do not get to turn it off when it becomes exhausting. You walk through the world reading everyone, absorbing everything, sensing the emotional weather of every room you enter. And people think you are sensitive, but sensitivity is not the right word. You are porous. You are a translator between worlds. You feel what others feel because your nervous system is wired for collective experience, not just individual experience. This is the wounded healer archetype. Chiron, the one whose deepest wound becomes the source of their gift. You absorb the pain of others and transmute it, often without even realizing you are doing it. And the cost is that you carry grief that is not yours, anxiety that does not belong to you, despair you cannot trace to any specific source. You are living what Jung called participation mystique, the dissolution of boundaries between self and other. For most people, this is developmental. They grow out of it in childhood. For you, it is structural. You never stop merging with the emotional field around you. And this makes you an extraordinary healer. It also leaves you exhausted in ways others cannot understand. Let me name the patterns you have been carrying. Not personality traits, archetypal structures. The INFJ Archetypes framework. These are the 7 ancient configurations that explain every strange, contradictory, beautiful, painful aspect of being you. The seer who perceives what others cannot. The seeker who senses there is something more but has not yet found it. The wounded healer whose deepest wound becomes a gift. The hermit who withdraws not from weakness but necessity. The shapeshifter who wears many faces to translate between worlds. The exile, permanently outside the village. The guardian of thresholds who stands between worlds helping others cross whilst remaining on the edge. You are not all of these at once, but you are living one or two of them right now. And the reason your life feels the way it feels is because you are participating in a pattern that others have carried for thousands of years. You are not broken, you are archetypal. The seer is perhaps the most recognized but least understood. This is Cassandra's curse. To know and not be believed. You have warned people about outcomes you could see forming months in advance, and they smiled and nodded and did exactly what you knew would harm them. And then, when the harm arrived, they acted surprised. They did not remember your warning, or they remembered it but dismissed it as pessimism, anxiety, or overthinking. Because the seer's knowledge does not come with receipts. You cannot show you're working. You cannot explain how you knew. You just knew. And this makes people deeply uncomfortable. They would rather believe you were wrong than accept that you perceived something they could not. So you learn to stop warning. You learn to watch people walk toward cliffs and say nothing. Because the pain of not being believed is worse than the pain of watching the inevitable unfold. And this is the seer's true burden, not the knowing. The silence that comes after the knowing is rejected. Jung understood this as the shadow of intuition, the isolation that comes from perceiving truths that others cannot access. You are not paranoid, you are not catastrophizing, you are reading pattern, and pattern does not lie. The seeker is the pilgrim energy, the one who senses there is something more but cannot name it. Ordinary life feels like exile from a home you have never seen but somehow remember. This is not dissatisfaction, this is metaphysical homesickness. You look at the life you have built, the relationships, the work, the routines, and some part of you whispers, this is not it, not because what you have is wrong, but because you are wired for meaning, and meaning is always just out of reach. The seeker walks not because they are lost, but because they know arrival exists. Somewhere there is a place, a person, a calling that will finally make sense of everything. And you've been walking toward it your entire life without knowing what it is. This is the INFJ's meaning hunger, the ache that drives you to keep searching, keep questioning, keep refusing to settle into lives that do not feed your soul. Jung called this individuation the lifelong work of becoming whole, but for you it does not feel like work, it feels like survival, because a life without meaning is not a life you can live. The hermit is not asocial, the hermit is structurally solitary. You withdraw not because you dislike people, but because you must. Because the world is too loud and you are too permeable, and sometimes the only way to survive is to disappear. You cancel plans at the last minute, you ghost conversations mid-thread, you vanish for weeks and then return as though no time has passed. And people call you flaky, unreliable and distant. But what they do not understand is that you are protecting something fragile, your inner world, the quiet space where you do your real work. The hermit carries the lantern, the one who goes into darkness alone to find what others need, and that journey cannot be done in company. So you retreat, and you feel guilty about it, and you promise yourself you will be better at staying present, and then the world becomes too much again, and you retreat again, and this cycle will continue until you stop apologizing for it. The hermit's withdrawal is not selfishness, it is necessity. It is the only way you recharge. It is how you remain capable of the depth you bring to everything you touch. And then there is the shadow side no one wants to talk about. The shapeshifter, the one who wears many faces. Not from deception, from exhaustion, you have learned to mirror, to adjust, to become what the room needs you to be, because being your whole self is too much for most people, too intense, too strange, too uncomfortable. So you shapeshift, you present different versions of yourself to different people, the professional version, the social version, the version that makes your family comfortable. And none of them are false, they are all you, but they are all partial. And the cost of this constant translation is that you sometimes forget which version is closest to the truth. You lose the thread of your own identity because you have spent so long being what others need. Jung called this the persona, the mask we wear to navigate the social world. For most people, the persona is a tool. For you, it is an entire wardrobe. And sometimes you try on so many masks that you forget what your face looks like underneath. This is the shapeshifter's curse. Fluidity that becomes fragmentation. And the work of your life is to gather all those scattered versions of yourself and remember that you are allowed to be whole. You are allowed to be all of it at once. You are allowed to stop translating. Here is what all of these archetypes have in common. They are threshold patterns. The seer stands at the threshold between what is and what will be. The seeker stands at the threshold between the life they have and the life they sense is possible. The wounded healer stands at the threshold between pain and transformation. The hermit stands at the threshold between the outer world and the inner sanctum. The shapeshifter stands at the threshold between selves. The exile stands at the threshold of belonging, never quite inside. And the guardian of thresholds helps others cross whilst remaining on the edge. Every single one of these patterns positions you as the one who is between, not fully in either world. And this is not an accident, this is not a personality quirk, this is structural. The INFJ mind is threshold consciousness. You exist in the liminal space, the in-between, the place where transformation happens. And the reason you have always felt like you do not quite belong anywhere is that belonging is not your function. Your function is to help others cross from one state of being to another whilst you remain suspended in the doorway. And this is lonely, and it is sacred, and it is yours. So which pattern have you been carrying all along? Is it the seer's burden of knowing what others cannot see? Is it the seeker's ache for meaning that ordinary life cannot satisfy? Is it the wounded healer's gift of transmuting pain into medicine? Is it the hermit's need for solitude that the world calls withdrawal? Is it the shapeshifter's exhausting fluidity? Is it the exile's structural loneliness? Or is it the guardian's role of standing between worlds, helping others cross, never quite crossing yourself? You do not have to choose just one. These patterns weave through each other. They are the ancient configurations beneath your personality. And the reason you found this video is because some part of you has always known you were carrying something older than yourself, something that predates personality psychology, something that has been passed down through every generation of those who perceive too clearly, feel too deeply, and stand too long at thresholds others rush across without noticing. You are not too much. You are not too sensitive. You are not broken, strange, or wrong. You are archetypal. You are living patterns that have been carried by seers, mystics, healers, and exiles for thousands of years. And the work of your life is not to fix yourself. It is to recognize which ancient pattern you are carrying and to stop apologizing for it. Because the world needs people who can stand at thresholds, who can perceive pattern, who can translate between worlds, who can hold the tension of being between without collapsing into either side. That is what you do. That is what you have always done. And now you have the language for it. If something in this video named what you have carried in silence, tell me which archetype landed hardest. The seer, the seeker, the wounded healer, the hermit, the shapeshifter, the exile, the guardian of thresholds. I want to know which pattern you recognized as yours. And if you want to continue exploring this territory together, subscribe. This is Power and Myth, where your depth is not too much. It is exactly enough. You are part of something here. A gathering of those who have always known they were living inside a story larger than personality. Until next time, find your power, know your myth.